Welcome to Beyond Broke and Hungry. We understand the struggle of juggling your career, relationships, nutrition, fitness, and finances while trying to pursue your dreams. And, stay sane too. We're here to make that both simple and fun for you. In this podcast, we interview a variety of wellness experts to share their expertise with all of us and make this journey we call life just a little bit more balanced. We're stumbling towards wellness right alongside you and are so happy to have you with us on this journey. So, with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry. I'm Dara.
And I'm Ellen. And we are so pumped to have you with us today. Welcome to episode 4.
Absolutely. And this episode is a special episode. We are highlighting our very own Ellen Hogan. As some of you know who have been following us for a while, you know that Ellen was a touring musician. And if you did not know that, well, here you go. Now you know. Ellen used to be a touring musician. That's actually how we met. I was just hypnotized by her beauty and her amazing vocal skills on the stage of our favorite bar in Jack's Beach, Lynch's. And that's actually how I met her. So Ellen being a touring musician, bebopping all over the place, obviously something, especially to those of you who are musicians or creatives who listen to this podcast and follow us, you know that the lifestyle of a musician is not necessarily the most healthy, especially being on the road, limited options to what you can eat, what you can't eat. So Ellen's going to give us a little bit of insight on that from her experience, but also, as you've probably seen our Financial Fridays that we do on our Instagram and Facebook stories every Friday, Ellen is the guru of saving money and being pretty frugal to the point where, it does affect her emotionally. And we're going to talk about that today and kind of go over how she does it, what she does when she's going through these emotional, financial strains. And hopefully you guys will be able to get some good advice, because she really does have some good advice. She's good at it. And it's been awesome, like learning from her as well when I myself as a musician go on the road or just traveling in general. So whether you're a touring musician or not, this advice can kind of go universally. So Ellen, let's start off with talking just a little bit about some things that you kind of first started to gather as you started to go on the road. Like, was this something that kind of organizing, being healthy on the go, is this something that you had to adapt to and learn, or was this just kind of something that you grew up kind of understanding? How to just explain to us like how that whole thing panned out for you?
It was definitely a little bit of both. So growing up, my mom was always the one who was like packing sandwiches on the road for road trips, and she's like, oh no, I'm one of 4. So she was like, all right, we are not going out to eat every time that y'all need a snack. We are going to be prepared. So that was kind of ingrained into me at a young age, like getting groceries on sale, like finding ways to save money. So I got that knowledge early on, but definitely had to adapt a lot when I started traveling and touring regularly, because a lot of the time we were going into really small towns and often playing bar gigs. And so it was not as glamorous as people think touring is. Definitely not. To be fair, we were definitely like bottom tier, just playing some 4-hour shows at bars around the South, and it was a lot. But we, a lot of the time our only options that either we could afford or could even find were fast food or just like really unhealthy food. And it also didn't help that the 3 guys that I was in the band with did not really care about their health at all. And so, I mean, oh Lord, one of my bandmates used to eat just room temperature cans of Vienna sausages. Oh my gosh. Or like cans of corn just out of the can in the van while we're on the road between shows. Oh, it was disgusting. And that was their version of meal prep, which is terrible. Don't do that.
That's not a meal.
That's not a meal. That is not nutrition.
Maybe if
That
you're a
is disgusting.
donkey.
Like, I don't care how poor you are. Don't do that.
Right.
So, no.
Unless you want to die faster. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh
really the only
my
thing I can
gosh.
say.
So much sodium. So much sodium.
Yes.
And it's just gross. Ew. So I just started prepping stuff. First, it started with, if we're leaving really early in the morning, I would prep, like I would make coffee before we left, so I didn't have to buy coffee. I knew the guys were going to go to a gas station and buy coffees, but I always prepped mine because, you know, $2 here, $2 there, all adds up. Mm-hmm. And plus everyone knows gas station coffee is terrible.
Awful.
So, true facts. So often what I would usually do was the night before when I was packing, I would whip up some overnight oats. That was a really good go-to. It's just like a half a cup of oatmeal, some chia seeds, milk, and then like some frozen fruit. And I would just throw that in the fridge and I'd bring that with me in the morning and it would still be cold. And so I would eat that like within the first couple hours of driving. And so I would also like just make sure I had some fruit on hand, and I just tried to have some like healthier snacks with me too. If I had leftovers from a meal the night before, then I would do that, but I didn't typically bring refrigerated stuff. Every once in a while I would, and I would just put it in a cooler. There was one time that we had a gig that we were like 4 hours away and I made burritos for everybody. So I had like an avocado, I had like a bag of spinach and a cooler, and it was just like a couple cans of black beans and a can of corn and tortillas and salsa, and we just made burritos in the van.
Nice.
Because we had like a 12-hour drive and we were all starving and balling on the tightest of budgets. So I fed all four of us for like
nice.
$4. So it's like amazing if you just kind of get clever with it. And let's be real, not everything can be a gourmet meal, especially when you're traveling. Sometimes you put up with things not being as like, if you're on the road, sometimes they aren't like the temperature you want them to be unless you go to a gas station and heat them up. But a lot of the time we would actually stay with different band members' parents, like when we were in the area, just to save some money on hotels. And so if we were staying at someone's house or in an Airbnb, then I would definitely make sure to bring groceries, just because no matter what, groceries are always going to be cheaper than going out to eat.
Right.
I don't care if it's McDonald's, you can still eat like healthier, cheaper with grocery store foods. And so that was a big thing for me. And going to the sales section at the grocery store, dragging the guys to the grocery store when we were on the road, when they're like, no, it's fine, we'll just go out to eat. And I'm like, okay, guys, we're here for 10 days. Like, we gotta do something here. Like, right. You can eat whatever you want, but I need to do this for me. And so I would, a lot of the time, like, get a thing of bananas. They always made fun of me because I would travel with peanut butter and cinnamon.
Nice.
Because I have a problem with both of those things. So I would just bring an entire jar of peanut butter, an entire jar of peanut butter, and a container of cinnamon with me. Because
use that the whole weekend.
Yeah. In 3 days, it's gone. I have a problem.
It's fine.
But yeah, so I would do that, and those little things just helped me save a lot of money, because usually we would only pay ourselves $80 a show so that we could put most of our like income towards the company and towards the band, so we could invest it back in for merch, for production, all that kind of stuff, for music videos. And so it actually worked out really well for me, and I'm not going to say that I loved it, but I made do, you know? Like sometimes you just kind of have to hustle.
So what do you say to someone who's like, okay, you know, it's the end of the night, I'm hungry. I played for 4 hours. Like, I just want to eat something. It's easier for me to go through the drive-through. I don't want to make something or prep something or eat like whatever I got. What do you say to the argument of, okay, it's the end of the night. I'm tired. I'm sure you were presented with plenty of times where at the end of the night you didn't want to prep something or cook something. You just wanted something easy. What did you do when those situations arose?
I mean, that happened all the time. Mm-hmm. And so just to be completely clear, I wasn't doing that with every meal. If a bar was covering our food that was sometimes part of our payment, was they would say, hey, we'll pay you this much and then we'll, everybody gets this much for food.
Sure.
And so when we had a bar tab, I would definitely get food from the bar. I would just try, and you know what? Sometimes I would get a burger and fries, and that's okay. Or if they're known for fish and chips, that's what I would get, because I can't get good
You do love
fish.
yourself some fish and chips.
I love myself some fish and chips, and I live in a landlocked state. So.
True.
Yes. And so that was always, you have to be gentle with yourself. But also, one thing to keep in mind is this situation was a little different because we were really active. I was the lead singer, so I was up on stage for 4 hours, jumping up and down, playing guitar. Mm-hmm. I was really thin back then because I was burning so many calories. It was like a straight up 4-hour cardio session, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I needed those calories. And so just kind of listen to your body. And if you're not starving and you just want to get a side of fries instead of fries and a burger or something like that, just do what you need. But there were times that I would order the salad, but to be fair, like I was just saying, with those 4-hour shows, sometimes it was just so much energy depleted that I needed those extra calories. And so when I was making stuff for myself, I was eating healthy. But if I was in the middle of, if I was on a break in the middle of a 4-hour show, if they were giving us a burger and fries, I would go with it. And same with fast food after. Sometimes I just wouldn't get anything, or I would try and get one of the healthier things on the menu. There are some fast food restaurants that are restaurant is a strong term.
Fast food establishments.
Yes. Fast food chains.
Yes.
But one thing that was always kind of a good option was like getting kind of grab and go tacos somewhere. Those can potentially be a little bit healthier than getting like a burger and fries. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we would go to taco places, and even if you're getting a big burrito, a lot of the time the ingredients are a little bit better,
right,
than like really processed ground beef. And so I was not afraid to get food at a fast food place, but the vast majority of it was, I would say it was 40% me trying to eat healthy and 60% budget.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that goes into, what we always talk about in all of our other episodes, and the advice that we're constantly giving to people is to plan and to prioritize and to plan ahead, and to prepare for that. Hey, you know what? Maybe you want to eat a burger and you are waiting all week for this gig, and at this burger place or at this bar that has really good burgers, and you have every intention to eat every bite of that burger and french fries and have a couple beers, and that's good. Like that's balance. That's part of it. You know what I mean? You can't just eat trail mix and expect to have the energy that you need and stuff like that. But if you're on the road for 10 days and that you're going to be on the road for 10 days, plan at least 4-5 of the meals that you're gonna eat, or at least, you know, have options, so that way if you do get hungry, like you said, grab a banana, eat a banana real quick, have some peanut butter, you know, maybe you do have some pita chips and hummus, or carrots, or stuff that, you know, like can't necessarily put in a cooler if you don't have like a refrigerator with you or something. But like gummies, like Welch's gummies have 0 grams of fat. You know what I mean? And that's like a little bit better of an option than grabbing like Skittles from the gas station, you know, just being a little bit more mindful for what you reach for. And then also, you know, being like, you know what, I've done my best while on this 10-day trip of touring and doing all this stuff. Like, you know what, I deserve this burger. I deserve this pizza. Like, I deserve to treat myself a little bit, to give myself a little headway, because you don't want to be so obsessed with trying to make yourself eat healthy while you're on the road that it turns into something negative on your mindset, where you're beating yourself up because, oh my God, I just had a burger 3 nights in a row. Okay, maybe just don't eat the bun. Maybe ask for
that a lot, actually.
Yeah, or ask for extra lettuce and tomatoes, so that way you get some vegetables in. Or instead of fries, be like, hey, can I get a side of whatever your vegetable is? Can I get a house salad instead of fries? Like, there are definitely options. Burgers aren't evil. Like, you can eat a burger, but it's what you put on it. Like, are you dousing it in ketchup, putting mayonnaise on it, like doing all of the things and adding bacon and mac and cheese and all this other stuff? A regular burger is, you know, it's not that bad.
Right. And one thing, I know you mentioned trail mix, but that was actually a really good, a good trick too, because if you really need some quick calories, that is why trail mix is called trail mix, because for hikers who need some quick calories and quick nutrients, it's a good go-to because it has your healthy fats, your protein, and your carbs. And it's a really good, it's kind of high calorie, so you have to be careful that you're not just munching on trail mix all day, but it's really good when you are hungry and need something to hold you over.
Awesome. So you were saying how it's 40% what you're eating and then 60% budget. So tell us a little bit about what that means. Like, what does it mean to uphold a budget while you're touring?
Yeah. So that was really just my own mentality. When I was saying it was 60% budget, that was just for me, just because I knew that if I, even just as much as like going out to eat for the meals when we were on the road, I knew that I would be putting myself into like a bad financial situation. And so for the sake of being wise with my money and not flushing all of it down the drain and making sure that I was still coming out of the weekend with some money in my pocket, that's what I had to do. And just to be clear, I did have a day job at the time, and so I was working a 9 to 5, and then on the weekends I would go and play shows from 10 to 2 a.m. or 8 to 12 a.m. and like these really late shows. And so I was like flipping my schedule. It was super hard. It was not good for my body. Don't recommend it. But for me, I was trying to take care of myself for sure. But a lot of it was, listen, I could also buy a banana and peanut butter at the gas station, but then it'll cost me $3 instead of 30 cents. So let's think about this here.
Right.
So those were the little things that I'm just like, all right, if I just prep it, like there are, you know, if you go to gas stations, you can get some healthier options. And I did that sometimes for sure. Like even just buying the nuts or just buying some like cheese and crackers or something to like hold you over, was good when I needed it, but I tried to bring as much with me as I could because like I was saying, it's always cheaper to go to the grocery store and you can always get stuff with better ingredients. You have more options and you can get what you actually want.
And you can get more of it to last you for multiple touring trips as opposed to just having it for just that one weekend where you can spend $12 and have snacks for the next 4 tours that you go on, or you can spend $12 per tour.
One snack for one day.
Exactly. So it just goes into that, like just planning ahead, being prepared, and making sure that you kind of have at least some fallback options so that it's not every single meal having to spend money, like protein bar for breakfast and or lunch or however it goes, and just kind of being smart and keeping it organized as opposed to just kind of willy-nilly like, oh, I'm gonna eat healthy on this trip. That's fine, you might do that, but if you're not preparing yourself or planning ahead, like, you're gonna end up spending more money and then be like, oh, eating healthy is so expensive. It doesn't have to be.
Right. And one of my biggest tips for nutrition and like just in general, for nutrition in general, is just having more veggies. And so a lot of the time, instead of the fries, I would switch it out for the veggie, like you were saying. And just because I know vegetables make my body feel good. My body functions at its best when I'm eating a ton of vegetables. And so when I was just kind of supplementing more fruits and veggies, I wasn't trying to take anything else out. It just kind of worked out that way. And I wasn't trying to restrict on carbs or anything like that. I wasn't trying to be like, oh man, I need to make sure I'm not eating too much fat. I was just like, all right, let's get more fruits and veggies. And in order to have more fruits and veggies, usually you have to substitute. And so it just worked really well for me.
Okay, that's super awesome. That's really good advice for anybody that is currently on the road or is planning to go on the road. I mean, at the end of the day, we sound like broken records, I feel like, almost, when we say just plan. I mean, that's the only thing that you can do, over plan, because then if you have excess food left over after that tour, okay, cool. Well, you can eat that when you're at home. Like, there's really, don't overthink it, but it's okay to over plan. Moving on from that, on the topic of Ellen being kind of our financial guru over here, we were actually having a conversation the other day, you and I, just talking about how it's great that you're able to, budget and save money and be frugal with your expenses and things like that. But it does kind of put a little bit of an emotional burden on you when it comes down to, getting invited to go out to eat all the time, and either having to turn that down or be the awkward person at the table that's not eating, or something like that. So talk to us a little bit about how you are able to be so disciplined with your budget and with your expenses, but how also that can kind of sometimes turn into a little bit of a negative situation for you to be in because of how our finances are tied to us so emotionally.
Yeah, so I'm balling on a tight budget right now. So I typically will have like a little bit of a side hustle, whether it's babysitting or dog sitting. And recently I just haven't had that. And so I've been having to have a much tighter budget. And even with that, I was always really frugal. I don't know if I can say this on the podcast. My friends always call me a Jew because I'm so cheap. The times that, everybody wants to go out to dinner, can be really hard for me, which sounds so stupid. And it feels stupid though. It's like, all right, just either go out to dinner or don't. Why is this an emotional thing for you? And I think for me, I'm an extrovert and I get really bad FOMO. So like, I always want to be able to be spending time with the people that I love. And if that is tied to going out to eat or going shopping or whatever, then I want to be a part of it. But then I'm also going to be looking at the menu twice as long as everyone else, trying to figure out what the cheapest thing is that I can get that doesn't sound terrible and sounds like it will actually fill me up or whatever, or eating before I go and then just getting a side of fries or whatever. But it is hard, because there are some times that even if you tell people, sometimes they don't understand. So for any of you guys, like, kind of struggling with the budget thing and you feel like your friends don't understand, I understand, because I am there all the time. And first of all, there's nothing wrong with that. Your financial situation doesn't say anything about you as a person. You are not your finances. Right. But it is really hard on the days that you know that, like, if you want to go out to eat, like you're taking it away from something else. And if you have really expensive monthly bills like I do, then there's nothing you can do about those. And if you're already almost maxing out your budget just with your bills, then it's like, all right, well, what do? You take it out of your savings to go out to dinner. And so some of my tricks though, like on the times that I do go out to eat, and all of that jazz, like that's not saying that I don't go or that I always just order a side of fries. But sometimes I will just order a couple of sides. That's always been a good option, or an appetizer tends to be a decent amount of food.
And some places will actually let you order off the kids menu depending on where you're at. Yeah. Not every place, true. But some places you are like, you're able to do that if you want to. I mean, like, you know, not that I'm saying you and your friends go to like McDonald's to like hang out, but like you can order a kid's meal like at McDonald's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely
and it's like enough food. Yeah, for sure. I would order
a kid's meal at McDonald's just because if I wasn't starving, I would get a kid's meal with like the apples and milk, and that's what I would get, or chocolate milk or whatever. And then if we were at like Pollo Tropical in Florida, I would get a side of beans and rice. It was $2.50. And then I could beef it up with all their toppings and sauces, and then I could get another side of like a vegetable. And then I actually kind of had a balanced meal for $5.
Right.
And so that's like a pretty good hack. But then there's also the places that you're like, hey, I'll take a side of Brussels sprouts, and they give you 3 halves of Brussels, like you get a Brussels sprout and a half. Like,
you get the essence of Brussels sprouts as your side.
It's like LaCroix. It's like the flavor like screaming at you from 3 states away. It's like that.
Yes. Like, don't go to those places. I'm trying to go to the place where I order a side of Brussels sprouts and it's an entire bowl as big as the table. Like, oh, wow, okay.
Exactly. So, yeah, but yeah, it's definitely hard to have the times that you are so worried about money that you feel like you can't make the decision that you want to, or you can't like bless the people that you want to, where it's like, oh, I really want to get this for my friend, but I can't. Like, it's just, I can't. Or I really want to cover their meal and like I want to take them out to dinner, but you just can't. And there are times that I definitely do. Like, one of my friends took me to the airport. So I, like, as a thank you, I mean, I gave him, like, we went out to coffee and breakfast. And so it's just one of those things where it's a balance, and you have to try not to be too hard on yourself. And like stick to your guns, but also know that there are times that you just need to be with your friends. And I am always going to be the first person to offer an alternative, like, hey, let's have a game night. Hey, everybody come to my house. We'll have a potluck. Or even I'll make us dinner, because that'll still be cheaper than me going out and feeding just me. Right. I can feed all 4 of us or whatever for less than I would be paying for a sandwich and a beer. And so, or even just a sandwich, depending on where I'm going or whatever.
Right. So yeah, doing like a potluck or, you know, a game night or something, like, you're really good at inviting people over and kind of entertaining a group of friends for the night where you don't have to go out. And quite honestly, like, this was never me before. Like, I was always the kind of girl that was like, let's go. I will be negative in my account to go out this weekend, but I don't care because I want to go out and have a good time. And now I'm like, game night? Oh, yeah. Yes, so down. Craft night? Yes, so down. So I don't know if it's like COVID, getting older, or a combination of both, but I have honestly in the last year turned into such a homebody that, like, I prefer to have those weekends or those evenings more often than not. And then that makes going out a little bit more special and a little bit more fun to where it's not so like, oh, this is the same thing we do every single weekend. It's like, no, like, this is a treat. We're going out to brunch, or we're going out to dinner, or we're going out.
And also, I mean, in the last like 5 to 10 years, people have started probably 10 years, people have started going out so much more regularly. Like, eating out until the last decade has been a special treat, and now people will do it for two meals out of the day.
Right.
And that, first of all, that's not healthy because you don't know what's going into your meals. But budget wise, it's not sustainable unless you make 6 figures to do that.
Right.
And so it's hard to kind of find that balance, to be the person that's not always offering alternatives and not always saying no to going out or whatever. But it's definitely great to have alternatives. I mean, we talk about them in our newsletter all the time, where it's like, okay, go for a hike, go to the lake or the ocean or whatever, like go for a little adventure and pack some sandwiches, you know.
Right.
Like, you can make a day out of something, go for a hike, or even go camping. Like, you can just bring your own food that you already have and like stay in like a tent that your friend has, or stay in your car. I know camping can be one of those things that's like kind of a high barrier to entry if you don't have the stuff, unless you're willing to camp in your car.
Right.
But like there's always something you can do. Like, I know like some people will do like slip and slides, or they just put a tarp in their backyard and put the hose on it. Like,
I am totally doing that this year. Like, I've been literally seeing all the things, and I am just like ready to do something like that so bad.
Exactly. And it's easy, it's cheap. Like, it's also nice to have activities where you don't feel like you have to get drunk to do them. I think part of that also is like a money thing. Like, it's expensive to get drunk.
It is, unless you're lightweight, or you know, like remember with our episode in season 1 with good old Mel, and we were talking about just flirt for free drinks, and you'll be fine. Like, that's how you can keep your budget small when you go out. Just wear a low cut top, find a cute guy. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But
don't do that.
Don't do that. But yeah, you know, I mean, like, it is. You're right. It is. I mean, like, you know, people talk to me all the time about like, oh, like, why not just, you know what you're doing at the gym, like, why not just have like a regular gym membership and pay like yeah, I could have a regular gym membership, pay $30 a month and never go. Or I could take, you know, and not to air my dirty laundry here, but it is $150 a month for me to go to my CrossFit gym. And at first I was like, oh my God, $150? Like, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Like, why would I spend that amount of money? Why would I spend that amount of money? But then I looked at my life and I was like, oh, I'm going out 3 times a week, spending at least $35 to $50, 3 times a week. 3 times a week. That's almost 150. Right. It makes me want to go back in time and just smack myself across the face and just be like, what the hell were you thinking? But I had to reevaluate that and go, okay, there's 3 times I'm just going to say no to going out. And that's all I did. I was like, okay, 3 times I'm going to say no. So that's what I started doing. And then it got easier and easier and easier to fit my gym into my budget. And now I don't even think about it. Now that's just immediately, it's what's in the budget, my gym and my nutrition and all the supplements I take and all this other stuff. Like, when it's a priority, it's not too expensive. And I don't go out nearly as much as I used to. I mean, right now I have a boyfriend, so, you know, we're still in that kind of early dating courting stage. So not to say that like a man has to pay for everything, but he does usually cover the cost a lot of the times when we go out to eat. I do buy groceries and, you know, cook dinner for him or cook brunch for him, like, occasionally, so we kind of trade off in that sense. But when I do go out now, it's really just going out with him and our friends, and 9 times out of 10 he's covering the bill, and every now and then I'll snag it. But I'm not going out multiple times a week with my girlfriends, just, you know, getting drunk and telling the bartender to put shots on my tab that I don't really even want to buy, but I'm drunk and I'm just like, I just want everyone to have fun, you know. So it's a little bit more controlled in that sense. So, like, you know, it's like, what are your financial priorities? Like, is your priority to go and get that drunk multiple times and spend that much money multiple times a week? Or, you know, are there times that you can just either go out and still have fun and be with your friends and not drink? But if you're not the kind of person that can do that, I know that's tough for some people, then at least say, okay, 3 times I'm going to say no. You know, I'm or organize, like I love my calendar, and you know, like look at your calendar and be like, okay, like if something's happening this day, this day, this day, this day, this day, I'm gonna say yes. If something's happening this day, this day, and this day, I'm gonna say no, because that I just need that time to, you know, to not go out. Or instead of maybe it's not a hard no, maybe it's like, I'd rather do this, what do you guys think? Would you rather come over here? Would you rather have a game night? Like, let's, you know, maybe let's all have a house party or something like that, where you spend maybe $50 in alcohol, yeah, but you have that for the next 4 parties.
Yeah. And we've been touching on the alternatives thing a lot, but it's also just what I do instead of like scheduling is, if it's a special occasion, if it's a friend's birthday, anything like that, it's a yes. Like even if it just means that I'm going there to be there with them and I get a $4 side of fries and that's all I can afford, I'm going because it's important. Like, right. That kind of thing where it's celebrating a friend of mine is important. And right. So I make sure that I'm there for that stuff. And then any other stuff I kind of consider optional. But like if it's brunch, I offer the alternative of us having it at my house and making brunch and making mimosas instead of buying brunch and buying mimosas, right. And stuff like that. But I've also, one thing that I'm trying to be a little bit better about is, I mean, I actually deal with pretty severe anxiety and like minor depression, and they kind of tie in together with my money situation. And so I have to be careful. Sometimes going out to eat can give me anxiety because I just know about the budget thing. Even though I'm really trying to enjoy my time with my friends, sometimes I get in my own head. And that's something that I personally am dealing with all the time. And so something that I've been kind of talking to my mom and some of my friends about is just sometimes, first of all, money is meant to be spent. Right. Like I've always, my whole life, I am a saver. I know, like, Dara, you're a spender. I am a saver. I've always been that way. Spender. and that's just how we're built. And so right. You have to be more intentional with saving. I have to tell myself that it's okay to spend, which is really interesting because there are some times, like, psychologically, I just want to be like, there are certain things I'll let myself spend money on and certain things that I won't. Like, right. I can, if I'm going to Marshall's and I'm buying, or like, I'll go to Marshall's or like TJ Maxx and get my body care and a couple like little home things, but it's only things that I feel like will actually improve my life. So basically like skincare, shampoo and conditioner, all that kind of stuff. You can get like a little higher quality stuff for cheaper there. And I try and get stuff on sale when.
But Ellen, this Live, Laugh, Love mug will improve my life. So what?
Oh yes. So that's like, I will always allow myself to spend money on groceries. And so even if like my friends are like coming over, I can go and end up spending a bunch of money on groceries for that, but it's still never going to be as bad. So I like, right. That's how I kind of justify it. But there are like a few things that I'll let myself buy, but I hate spending money on clothes. Hate shopping for clothes. Clothes never fit me right. I just hate it. There's just all these certain things that like, if something's above like $15 or $20, I'm going to second guess it hard. And so that's something that I kind of deal with. And I'm also trying to remember that like money is meant to be spent. Right. And so that's kind of like, to wrap up, that's one thing to remember is, yes, do your best to plan and keep your budget, but also like live your life and don't let like your anxiety and fear or whatever get in the way of you like having a good time. But also you need to know that it just depends on your personality. If you're like me, then you need to give yourself permission. If you're like Dara, then you need to dial it back. Right. And so it's really important to know your own personality, know yourself, and know what you need, and take the time to get to know like what your spending habits are. And whether it's just tracking your spending for a couple months and or making like a strict budget, it's just a matter of knowing where your money's going and what's happening with it, so that you can, even if you're not tracking it forever, for like the first month or two, you can say, oh, I spent a lot of money at Starbucks. Maybe I should just cut out one of those a week.
Right.
And those little things add up, and you're able to save and all that stuff. But
yeah, well, just at the end of the day, if you're collecting that data, you're able to kind of organize where and when you need to make those alterations, whether it's like you said with Starbucks, or, you know, maybe you do pop into the gas station and always kind of grab a snack or grab a drink or something like that. Like those little tiny things, like where can you make those alterations? And you're not going to know if you're just kind of willy-nilly spending and not really paying attention. But it's just a matter of looking at what you're doing, paying attention to what you're doing. Just keep all of your receipts, and at the end of the week, look at what you're spending. At the end of the month, look at what you're spending, and then kind of be like, okay, this is what I did last month. What can I do to make this better for the next month? You know, and things like that. Those are little things that have helped me, and also just like paying attention to the things that you do to help your budget on the little things. And like, you know, sometimes when we do go out to eat, yes, you do spend a little bit more time looking at the menu, but it also reminds me to be a little bit more mindful, because without paying attention, you could have a $75 bill just yourself if you're not careful.
So we are just going to kind of close on that point, but we just love you guys so much. And I hope that you've taken something from this. I know it was a little all over the place, kind of talking about budget, not as exclusively about nutrition, but we hope you learned something, and we hope you tune back in next week for another interview, and we will see you guys soon. Definitely rate, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to Beyond Broke and Hungry wherever you get your podcast, so you can be notified every time a new episode drops. It would also mean the world to us if you rate, review, and share the podcast too, so more people can join the tribe. Follow us on social media at Beyond Broke and Hungry to interact with us and see how we're stumbling towards wellness one day at a time.